Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's on board with a U.S. plan to end the Israel-Hamas war. But speaking with U.S. President Donald Trump this afternoon, Netanyahu spelled out the consequences if Trump's plan fails.
We're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself.
The terms that Donald Trump unveiled this afternoon say that within 72 hours of agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip through the UN and Red Crescent. And it demands that Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza. So even with Netanyahu in agreement, can this plan end the war? Well, John Allen is a former Canadian ambassador to Israel, and he joins us now. John Allen, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure, David.
Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to this plan, even though Trump's plan includes amnesty for Hamas members who lay down their weapons and the release of almost 2,000 jailed or detained Gazans. Why do you think Bibi Netanyahu went along with this?
I think he went along with it because Donald Trump put pressure on him to do so and basically told him that if he didn't, then the U.S. would probably stop supporting him. What exactly he told him, I don't know. But certainly Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and others have been meeting with the Prime Minister for 2 days, basically setting out these terms. And so he has agreed, and if Hamas agrees, we really could see at least the end of the war for as long as the two sides trust each other.
So Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed. We've talked many times, though, about the elements of the coalition of the government that he leads, some of which want no Palestinians in Gaza, want no Palestinians in the West Bank. Do you think he can get his government, as currently constituted, to hold up his word to the president here?
Well, there's two possibilities. One is that Ben-Gvir and Smotrich will make a lot of noise, but then decide that they've never had as much power in their lives and they're going to swallow this. The other is that they decide to pull out, but that other opposition parties, led by Yair Lapid, Benny Gantz, and Yair Golan, say, we will step in and we will support you because we want those hostages back right now. We want the war to end. We want our soldiers out of Gaza. So those are the two options. I'm not sure how it'll play out, but he could deliver this deal if he wanted to, and certainly the Israeli people want those outcomes.
It was interesting to see the Prime Minister Netanyahu agree to this, because there are certain things in it that are maybe difficult for him, that the amnesty for Hamas, that Gazans will be allowed to leave and come back when, back in February, I think Donald Trump was talking about them just leaving, sort of being forced out of there. He was also, I don't know if he was forced to this, but he made a phone call to the leader of Qatar and apologized for the strike against the Hamas officials there. I mean, what does all of this tell you about the situation that Donald Trump put Benjamin Netanyahu in here?
It's interesting you mentioned that phone call, because Bezalel Smotrich described it as a groveling phone call and heavily criticized Netanyahu for making it. I think, as I suggested, it means, what it means is that Donald Trump is really seeking that Nobel Peace Prize. He won't get it, but he's really seeking it, and it's very dependent on having Arab countries, the Gulf countries. He's now got Indonesia involved. He's got Turkey involved. They were all part of the discussions leading to this 21-point plan. And I think Trump is now saying that I want this as my legacy item more than I'm going to let Bibi Netanyahu carry on as he wishes. And he put the prime minister in a corner. There's plenty of wiggle room in this agreement if the prime minister claims that Hamas isn't following through, or if it claims that the Palestinian Authority hasn't made the reforms it wants. There's a lot of wiggle room for him. But if the war ends and lives of hostages and the Palestinians who have been suffering death and destruction, if that ends, then this will be a positive. It's not going to stop the settlement expansion in the West Bank. Nothing was said of the West Bank here.
Right. No, that is a good point. But, to this point, nobody has put Bibi in a corner, but Donald Trump has done it in some way today. The question now is, what does Hamas do, right? Because so much of this is contingent on what this designated terrorist organization does. It's either leave, decommission, and swear to be peaceful, and have no role whatsoever in the future governance of Gaza. I mean, do you think that is something that Hamas is likely to agree to?
Well, we certainly have to hope so. They have put the lives of the hostages and of 2 million Gazans, in death's row. And it's really time that they gave up the hostages, that they allowed the war to end. And frankly, they're getting a pretty good deal. Some will leave. Some hopefully, can stay if they're really committed to what they claim. And they're also getting a fairly large number of prisoners out that they can take credit for. There really was no possibility of them governing in Gaza going forward anyway. So one would hope that they will buy the deal, and perhaps they think that they will, live forever and be martyred forever and come back at some other time. But for now, let's hope they agree to it.
So obviously Hamas cannot be part of whatever happens the day after. The conversation throughout this conflict has been, what is the day after plan for Gaza? And the answer to some degree now is a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee as a transitional government under this plan, with oversight from a board that includes Trump and people like former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. What do you make of that? Is that going to be a credible plan for the key players in Israel and the Palestinian community and in the region?
I think it's potentially credible. I don't know how much Donald Trump is going to play a role here, but I think Tony Blair would play a role. And what he would be wanting to do is get some other very senior people from the Gulf and from the West onto his board to give it some heft and credibility. And then the essence is to bring in a multinational force, probably Gulf-led, but with the support of the West, and I do hope they would support it in a significant way, to bring rule of law into Gaza, which would then allow the aid to flow and reconstruction to begin, and for some normalcy for the 2 million Gazans that are there. So there is a plan. What is not clear is, and what will be criticized by the Palestinians, is just how much of a role the Palestinian Authority is going to play. And Bibi Netanyahu will do everything possible to limit that role, and I think the West and Palestinians will want to see a role there, and so that there is inevitably a pathway towards self-determination and statehood for the Palestinians.
This 20-point plan from the president, backed by the prime minister, it comes with a take it or else, essentially, that, if Hamas fails to live up to it, Bibi Netanyahu says Israel will finish the job, and Donald Trump says they will have the full backing of the United States to do that. I mean, there's an ominous warning in that, given what has occurred up to this point. What does that, backstop to this proposal tell you about the stability of the peace that this could create?
Well, the Prime Minister told Bibi Netanyahu in March when he broke the ceasefire that he was going to take care of this problem in short order, and here we are in October and the fighting continues. If we continue the war, if he continues his ground invasion in Gaza City and forces these million people out to the south, then there will be continuing disaster, humanitarian crisis, more IDF soldiers dead, probably the hostages would not survive. So it would be a horrible thing if Hamas doesn't agree here, because the Palestinian people and the hostages and their families and the soldiers all have an opportunity here, and it's now in Hamas's hands, very much so.
Yeah, and the latest we're seeing from Arab media and also from the Associated Press is that Hamas says they're assessing it in good faith, but we don't yet have an answer. Obviously, we'll wait for that. But just as a quick final point, John Allen, I mean, last week we saw the UN General Assembly, the majority of members vote to recognize a Palestinian state, and we saw this fierce rebuttal from Prime Minister Netanyahu when he spoke Friday morning, I believe it was. Based on what we've seen today, I mean, what does that tell you about the possibility of there being a Palestinian state in the medium term here?
The possibility of a Palestinian state's not going to happen while Prime Minister Netanyahu is the leader of Israel. And it probably won't happen if another government comes in for a while. But if this peace can lead to different governments, to real reform with the Palestinian Authority, which Mahmoud Abbas promised to our Prime Minister and to many others, some of the things have been done, others have to be done. Good governance, real elections, no Hamas participation, then we can have a pathway. That's the most we can hope for right now, is a pathway. That's what the Gulf states want. That's what the Arabs want. Certainly that's what the Palestinians want. And that's what the West wants, because they realize that two states is the only way forward. So keep our fingers crossed, and let's hope for the best. This is the first sign of hope we've had, and we just have to hope and pray that it happens.
Okay. John Allen, former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Always appreciate the time, sir. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much.